Joining us now for more is Jeremy Kletzkind, VP of Business Development for Startup Nation Central. Jeremy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Steve.
This minister from the UAE, Mariam El Mohari, also reported now that this week she's just signed a series of agreements for cooperation with the Environmental Protection Minister, Tamar Zandberg. So that's government to government. So what is the relation, if there is one, between the cooperation you're doing with the UAE and these agreements now signed with the Israeli government?
So from the early days and from April already, we've been building a task force with the UAE embassy in Israel. And now, someone needs to execute those agreements and create those bridges between those needs that are expressed by government entities and large companies in the UAE and the Israeli ecosystem of innovation. So we're here to make it happen. That's
right.
What we do.
Let's talk about why Agri-Tech is such a key field. Certainly we understand for Israel, whether it's rich history of trying to be food self-sufficient. What about it in terms of the UAE?
Well, they have very similar needs. They have like a land, desert lands, and so they need irrigations, they need water management, water filtering, desalinizations, the same actually challenges that Israel in many cases have been overcoming. They are facing the same ones. So we believe these kind of collaborations are the first step and can be extremely fruitful.
So maybe give us some examples of the kind of technology or some of the specific companies that might be involved here as we move along.
Well, of course, they are all the most traditional innovations that help to build the state of Israel for like many years. But more lately, the forefront of the innovation is alternative proteins. And last week, a startup from...
Wait, when you say alternative proteins,
yes.
Meat eaters, you are talking about sort of substitute meat products, is
exactly.
That correct?
So one of them is Cultivate Meat, and it's a company called Aleph Farm, and they raised over $105 million last week, and the round was led by ADQ, which is a sovereign fund of Abu Dhabi. So we can see that less than a year after the signature of the Abraham Accords, you already have like very substantial deals happening.
Okay. And what else? I know also water security, water tech is also involved here. Maybe give us some example. I mean, there obviously a strong connection between Israel's needs and especially what you would see in the Gulf.
Yeah, so there are many startups, and we actually are aware of many deals that are ongoing in these fields that will be published in the next couple of weeks, probably. But the sector of water, the sector of food is a priority for this ministry. The Minister of Food Security, which is the specific title of the minister that came to visit us, has very specific challenges. And the interesting skill set that we have in Israel is we know how to adapt to new challenges. And many companies can actually tackle new challenges that they never faced. That's the point.
Right. Now, we've been talking about technology from Israel going to the Gulf. What about in the other direction? Because, of course, the UAE is a very developed economy, a very developed tech sector, and they've been dealing with some of these issues, as you said. I mean, how much is there that Israel can absorb and profit from the collaboration coming from the side of the UAE?
That's a great question. These complementarities are obvious, but they are two very different countries. One is driven, and we have like 50% of our industrial exports is the high-tech. On their side, it's still driven by more traditional economy. And so what we see is that companies that are eager to innovate, but still are not really used to engage with early-stage innovative technologies. And so when you have those 400 agri-tech companies in Israel, out of them, just maybe 5 or 10 are directly eligible for an investment or strong partnership today out of the box. These large entities, when they come to Israel, not only they want to directly engage, but they also want to learn and to adapt and to actually have some business, collaborations much beyond direct investments.
Right. So we were talking about the UAE here. What about some of the other new partners that Israel has via the Abraham Accords? For example, Bahrain.
I was 2 weeks ago in Bahrain, and Bahrain is a very interesting country. From Israel, and that's part of this process. Now we learn about each other's. From Israel, we say Bahrain. You say UAE. We believe it could be like about the same culture and about the same manners, and also about the same same needs in terms of technology and collaboration potential, and it's definitely not. And I've had the luck to meet with some ministers and some.
Just briefly, such as give us just one difference.
Well, one big difference, the Emirates are it's like 95% or between 90 to 95% of expats, of non-citizens, non-local citizens. In Bahrain, it's 50-50. So the whole dynamic of the country is different, just because the industry is designed in a different way. So just with that, you have different needs in healthcare, you have different needs in retail. Everything is designed differently.
All right. I will just again say Startup Nation Central is an NGO that partners with the government, as I say, on this thing in promoting Israeli tech. And as I said, it has really gotten off to a running start in collaboration, cooperation, especially with the UAE. Jeremy Kletzkine of Startup Nation Central, thanks for joining us on the Rundown.